Tomorrow, the U.S. Supreme Court will hear oral arguments in a case that could mean the end to the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare, of course. The law has been before the High Court twice before, but not with this decisive conservative majority. Lorenzo Hall joins us now with more on how the Democrats plan to defend the law. Hey, Zo.
Yeah, hey, Bruce. Healthcare for more than 20 million people is hanging in the balance right now. This case in particular is focused on that individual mandate, a penalty for people who were in a position to get health insurance but didn't. Now, Congress got rid of that penalty back in 2017, and for that reason, Republican challengers say that's a key part of Obamacare, and therefore the entire law should just be tossed out. I spoke with Virginia's Attorney General Mark Herring, who will be defending the Affordable Care Act in court.
Even if for some reason you take that theoretical mandate away, there is no reason why that should cause the rest of the Affordable Care Act to just be wiped out. And the implications of that are staggering.
Now, we've heard from a number of people as well who oppose the Affordable Care Act to a certain degree. They say that their health insurance premiums have increased over the last couple of years. Is there any correlation between getting rid of that penalty and the federal government not making any money off of that and these increasing premiums in some cases?
No, and I think what you're seeing is the result of the Trump administration spending 4 years to do everything it can to undermine affordable quality health care for Americans, which it has done from day one. And, this is not the first time the Affordable Care Act has been in front of the U.S. Supreme Court. It has considered it already twice and upheld the constitutionality. The second one was a legal challenge that came out of Virginia. And I came in on the side of protecting people's health care in Virginia. It went all the way to the Supreme Court. We won and we were successful there. And we're going to be successful this time, too.
Now, what about people with just general health insurance, through their employer? How might it impact them, a ruling against the Affordable Care Act?
A ruling against the Affordable Care Act could really undermine the health insurance markets and destabilize them all across the country. When you impact the coverage for tens of millions of Americans, it is going to have staggering consequences. It will make health insurance more expensive on the marketplace and runs the risk of destabilizing all of the health coverage markets.
Now, Bruce, a lot of people watching this case because of the new 6-3 conservative majority on the court with the addition of Justice Amy Coney Barrett, of course. Now, oral arguments are tomorrow, but a ruling is not expected until next May or June. And also want to point out, if justices rule against it, it's not clear how Democrats might respond with winning the White House and control of the Senate. Still a question mark, Bruce.